Hello everyone, welcome to Drishti IAS. Today you're watching the fourth session of the NCERT Foundation series, wherein we study the subject of political science or polity with the help of MCQs and PYQs. Today we're going to be studying a very crucial topic which happens to be chapter 4th of your class 9 NCERT, which is titled Working of Institutions. Now, in the preceding 3 sessions, we've covered the first 3 chapters of your class 9 NCERT, namely democracy, followed by constitution, and then elections. So today we are going to be covering topic which is very crucial, which is working of institutions, which shows how merely having a democracy is not enough, or having a constitution and simply conducting elections is not enough for a successful government in a democratic setup to run. All right. So without further ado, let's plunge in. I have made a very brief recap. Not a recap, actually, a quick glance for you to discuss and briefly take a look at the topics that we're going to be covering, the subtopics and the concepts that we're covering in some form of question or the other today. So we are going to be talking about 3 institutions: the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, the 3 organs of our government. These are 3 political institutions. In the parliament or in the legislature, we are going to study about the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. While we discuss executive, we are going to study about the prime minister and the cabinet, the president, as well as the civil services. And finally, when we discuss the judiciary, we're going to be discussing about the various courts, the Supreme Courts, the High Courts, the nature of judiciary, as well as a concept called Public Interest Litigation. Now, let's try and understand that over here, we are only barely scratching the surface. And as the series advances, we are going to study these concepts more in depth and more in detail. Let's begin with the previous day question. For election to the Lok Sabha, a nomination paper can be filed by A, anyone residing in India. So no, not really. Even a foreigner could be residing in India. Can they actually file for a nomination in the Lok Sabha? No, you have to be a voter in India. That is the primary condition. You have to be a voter in India. Of course, you have to be a citizen in India. That is understood. And you have to be at least 25 years of age. Now, keeping this information in mind, let's follow through. Option B says a resident of the constituency from which the election is to be contested. No, this is not a limitation. Even if I belong to certain constituency from Uttar Pradesh, I can still contest elections in Kerala. This is not a limitation. Think about a lot of politicians in our present times and you'll understand. They are fighting in UP as well as in Kerala. All right. Any citizen of India whose name appears in electoral roll of a constituency. Absolutely. This is our correct answer. Option C. And D, any citizen of India? No, you have to be a voter in India and you have to be 25 years of age and above. So we have our answer here. The first question on the topic: which of the following best explains why institutions are necessary in a democracy? So the question is basically asking about the need for institutions. But before we try to attempt this question, let's first try to understand what is the meaning of the term institutions that we are using. So basically, as we discussed right at the beginning of this session, that we'll be discussing 3 political institutions today, which is the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, right? We are using that term very frequently today. What does institutions mean? See, institutions are nothing. They're simply a set of rules. Institutions are a set of rules or arrangements that help leaders in taking decisions or making decisions, in implementing those decisions, and finally in resolution of conflict or disputes, that may arise while they are focusing or discussing or debating these decisions. So if we go back, let's try and understand who makes the laws, who takes major decisions when it comes to our political institutions. The legislature does, the parliament does. All right. So legislature takes your decisions. Who implements the decision? As the name suggests, executive. Why are they called executive? Because they execute various decisions, various policies or laws that are made by the legislature. And finally, whenever there are certain disputes, some sort of a resolution has to be arrived at, some sort of a judgment has to be arrived at about whether someone is right or wrong, some decision is right or wrong, whether it needs to be implemented as is or it should be overturned. Who takes care of that? Judiciary, right? So this is taken care of by judiciary. So this so far is the concept of institutions. They're nothing but a set of rules and some arrangements that make your life easier, that help the government to run smoothly. Okay? Because the government has to do a lot of things. They have to take various decisions about allocation of budget. They have to provide welfare schemes to the people. They have to collect taxes, right? So even if the person who is tasked with doing all these actions changes these institutions, impart some sense of permanency to our entire setup. People over here, people responsible may change, but the institutions remain as it is, as they are. Anyway, so let's come and look at the first statement. They make decision making fast and efficient. No. First of all, in a democracy, efficiency and quickness is really not the virtue. All right. We discussed it in, I think, every preceding lecture. No, it does not make the decision fast and efficient. It makes the decision sound and rational because it goes through multiple stages. Okay. They allow wider consultation, accountability and continuity. Absolutely. Wider consultation because rash decisions are avoided. First stage is going to be the parliament who makes the laws. If they feel, that itself involves a lot of debate and discussion. Then even at the stage of dispute resolution, if the common man are not satisfied with the laws, everybody is open to, everybody is free and entitled to knock on the doors of the courts. And there again, if at all a rash decision has been taken, it may be easily overturned or declared null and void. So yes, and of course we discussed how continuity is maintained, a sense of permanency is imparted. See, they allow leaders to bypass rules. No, institutions themselves are a set of rules, so they cannot allow leaders to bypass rules. D, they centralize all power in the executive. Absolutely not. One very important key reason or key need for institutions is that they avoid making one all powerful. All right. So this is one of the key needs of an institution, to avoid concentration of power in one person or one limb or one organ. So we have our correct answer, which is option number B. In all democracies, an assembly of elected representatives exercises supreme political authority on behalf of the people. In India, this is called. Now let's try and understand what this statement says. It says that in all democracies, the supreme political authority about what? Supreme authority related to what? Related to decision making, decision implementing, money control, right? All these matters, law making. Supreme political authority in every democracy lies with or rests with a group of elected representatives. We have been talking about it since day one. Elected representatives are actually what define democracy, right? So here again, we see that on behalf of the people, in all democracies, there is a group of people, an assembly of people who exercise supreme political authority related to these matters. Now, in India, what is it called? It's called, is it called the legislature? No, legislature is actually simply to do with law making. Okay? So, not really. B, parliament. Yes, this is parliament. Cabinet, we are going to study further. It's actually a small group of main ministers. And D, Council of Ministers. We are also going to study this subject, this topic further. Council of Ministers are actually ministers that are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister to the government. All right. So our correct option is B. Now, why I have brought this up is because we should know that our supreme political authority rests with the elected representatives, which is known by the term of parliament. In the US, such an assembly of elected representatives is known as the Congress. In the UK, it is again known as the Parliament. We have actually borrowed heavily, or we've been inspired heavily by the UK's political system. So here again, it's known as the Parliament. Canada, also known as the Parliament. Australia, also known as the Parliament. All right. Now, what exactly is the Parliament? What does the Parliament consist of? We'll see ahead. Now, before this question, let's try to understand what exactly do we mean by Parliament. We have already discussed that in India, it is an assembly of people in whom an assembly of, let's say, elected representative, in whom the decision-making authority or the supreme political authority of the people of India rests. All right. Now, the Parliament has two chambers or two houses, as you may call them, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Now, this is known as the lower house or the lower chamber, and this is known as the upper chamber. Okay. However, Parliament also includes the President. Now, this is important, even though the President is not a member of either of the two houses. All right. So, these three form your Parliament. This is the lower house, the lower chamber. It basically involves members who are directly elected. This has members who are indirectly elected. how we'll do in subsequent videos. Over here, you should simply know that this is the basic difference. Now here the strength, maximum strength, we are talking about maximum strength, is 552 members. Here the maximum strength is 250 members. I'm not talking about present strength or total strength. I'm talking about maximum strength. All right. This is the House of the People. As you can see by the term Lok. Lok has to do with people. So this is House of the People, whereas Rajya has to do with states, and therefore this is Council of the States. These are some very important differences that you must know. Now let's try and attempt with this very basic information the next question that we have. Now please understand that both these houses, I mean, this is called lower house and this is called upper house. So you might think that this house is less powerful and this house is more powerful, but it's not like that. In a lot of cases, in a lot of situations, both of these houses have equal powers. Whereas in some other important cases, like your budget, like your no confidence motion, like your money bills, Lok Sabha is more powerful. Whereas whenever issues related to states happen or arise or need any sort of legislating, then Rajya Sabha happens to have more powers. We'll discuss how. So which of the following functions can only be performed by the Rajya Sabha and not by the Lok Sabha? Are we talking about equal powers here? No. We're talking about cases where the Rajya Sabha is more powerful than the Lok Sabha. All right. So A, initiating money bills. See, money bills actually are the sole and whole responsibilities of the Lok Sabha. Money bills are only introduced in the Lok Sabha. This is a very important point that you are going to remember now, and you should remember forever if you're attempting UPSC. This should not actually leave your memory. Money bills are introduced only in the Lok Sabha. B, passing a no confidence motion against the government. So here, let's see. Only the Lok Sabha can entertain a no confidence motion against the government. Do you know why? Because the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers are responsible only to the Lok Sabha. They are accountable only to the Lok Sabha. Okay? So, here again, I don't think this is a function that only Rajya Sabha can perform. Option 3, authorizing Parliament to legislate on a matter in the state list. Yes. Now, this is where we are talking. It is Rajya Sabha, the Council of States. So, if one has to authorize Parliament to legislate on matters in the state list, it has to be initiated by the Rajya Sabha. So, this happens to be our correct answer. Option D is electing the President of India. Here again, both houses have equal powers. Because how is the President of India elected? The President of India is elected indirectly, not directly by the people. He or she is elected indirectly by the elected members of both houses of the Parliament. We are talking only about elected members of both houses of the Parliament. Okay? And also the elected members of the State Legislative Assembly. Now, this again is a very nuanced concept. There is some more layering to it, but we'll discover it and we'll uncover it as we move ahead. But please remember, both houses have equal powers in respect of electing the President of India, because both houses have elected members who are eligible to elect the President of India. No nominated members are allowed to vote in these elections. All right. So your correct answer is option C. Here I have brought to you certain differences between the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha with respect to their areas of function. Now, with respect to ordinary law, suppose any ordinary law has to pass. Both of them have equal powers. Even the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha, both of them will have to pass that law. Okay. However, suppose there is a deadlock. Suppose there is a deadlock. Then a joint sitting of both the houses is summoned. Okay. Where usually Lok Sabha has an advantage. So if the Lok Sabha wants that bill to be passed, the bill will be passed because they have more strength. We discussed they have more strength and the bill is likely to pass. But otherwise, both have equal power in case of ordinary laws. Now, when we are discussing about money bills, Lok Sabha has exclusive power to introduce and pass money bills, whereas Rajya Sabha cannot amend or reject but may recommend certain changes to the money bills, and that too within 14 days. And again, the discretion lies with the Lok Sabha. They may accept or they may reject those recommendations. Now, control over the executive. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible only to the Lok Sabha, only being the keyword here. Okay, and it can remove the government through a no confidence motion, which we'll try to see ahead. No confidence, as the name suggests, simply means that the Lok Sabha does not have confidence in the government. It does not have confidence that the government or the ruling government actually represents the will of the people. Okay. Now, Rajya Sabha actually has no power to hold the government responsible in this manner. So again, control over the executive only belongs to the Lok Sabha. Now here, Rajya Sabha has a special power that only Rajya Sabha can pass a resolution to allow Parliament to legislate on a state list subject like we discussed. Only Rajya Sabha can do this. Okay. And it also has the power to create an All India service. They can create All India services under Article 312. This is, however, a bit advanced for this class as of now, for this lecture as of now, but still it's good to know that they have the exclusive power to pass a resolution regarding any matter in the state list as well as in the creation of new All India services under Article 312. Which of the following illustrates the difference between political and permanent executive? What is political executive and what is permanent executive? We discussed that executive has to do with implementing or executing decisions, political decisions, which are usually made in the Parliament or are taken by the cabinet. Okay, we are coming to that eventually. Now, executive can be of two types. One is political. The other is permanent, also known as non-political. Okay, these are the two types of executives. When we are talking about political executives, we are actually talking about leaders, various ministers, okay, who make decisions, who take all the decisions. Now, when we are talking about permanent or non-political executives, we are talking about all of you, the aspirants. You aspire to be civil servants, right? So, the permanent executive, the non-political executive are basically the civil servants who assist these leaders to implement their decisions. All right. Now you may ask why these leaders have more power as compared to your civil servants. Simply because they represent the will of the people. They have been chosen by the people. That is why they have more power despite perhaps not being subject matter experts. All right? I hope that makes sense. Now, let's consider the options. We are trying to understand the difference between our political and non-political or permanent executives. Option A, Prime Minister's tenure depends on majority support. Civil servants remain regardless of political change. Do you think this is correct? Prime Minister's tenure depends on majority support. Yes, we've discussed this. Civil servants remain regardless of political change. So like I said, these are permanent executive. Your leaders will come and go every 5 years or maybe sooner or maybe later in case of an emergency. But these are going to remain there. Your permanent executives, your civil servants. So they are going to assist the leaders, right? And the leaders will change, obviously, according to elections and the results. But they remain as it is. So the very first statement gives you the correct answer, which is option A. Now still, let's just once look at the other options. B, political executive implements policies, permanent executive formulates them. No, it's actually the reverse. Political executives formulate policies, whereas permanent executives implement policies. C, civil servants head ministries, ministers assist them. Very obviously reversed. And finally, both are directly accountable to Parliament. No, only the leaders are directly accountable to the Parliament. So we have our correct answer. Now, before we move ahead, I'd like to draw your attention to the NCERT online course for your UPSC foundation. This course has 150 plus classes to clarify your concepts in different NCERTs, as well as it has 2 years validity, which means you can access the course for up to 2 years. Now the admissions for this course are open, so you may please go ahead and check it out. The good thing is that if you purchase, you enroll yourself in this NCERT online course, and then you subsequently visit any of our offline physical centers like Jaipur, Indore, Lucknow, Prayagraj, Karol Bagh or Noida, and you get yourself enrolled in the IAS GS Foundation Classroom course, then you'll receive a full fee waiver of your NCERT online course. For more details, you can click the link in the description or you can call 87501 87501. Question 5, with reference to the Office of the Prime Minister of India, consider the following statements. 1. The Prime Minister is directly elected by the citizens of India through a national election. Is it true about the Prime Minister? Let's go back. Whenever we are talking about elections, are we directly electing the Prime Minister? No, we are simply electing members of Parliament from different constituencies. We discussed how every MP roughly represents the same number of people, right? And that is how constituencies are divided. So, is the Prime Minister directly elected by the citizens of India through a national election? No. Now, the Prime Minister of India is actually appointed by the President. Now the question is, this is all right, but can the President just arbitrarily, out of his own free will, choose anybody to be the Prime Minister? Does that happen? Let's see. The second point says the Prime Minister remains in office so long as he or she enjoys the confidence of the Lok Sabha. Yes, we have sufficiently discussed this. But coming back and circling back to this point, the President appoints the Prime Minister, but how? So, it is not a random decision. Basically, the President will appoint, the President is going to appoint the leader of the majority party, or a coalition of parties or a pre-poll alliance. This is a pre-poll alliance. That means before the polls, before the votes, before elections, if a group of parties came together and said that we are allying and we are allies and we are fighting the elections together, contesting the elections as one, then the leader of the majority, if there is a single majority party which crosses the 272 mark in the parliament, either that person or the leader of a pre-poll alliance. Now, how did we come to this number? Because the strength, the current strength of our Lok Sabha is 543. You divide it by 2, you have to have a majority, a simple majority, which means over 50%, right? Now, in that case, it amounts to this number, okay? So, if a party crosses the 272 mark, then it is the leader of that party is going to be appointed by the president as the prime minister. However, or if there is a pre-poll alliance that manages to cross this mark, then of course, the president is going to appoint the leader of this coalition as the prime minister. However, if no party crosses the 272 mark, which means in case of a hung parliament, this is called a hung parliament where you do not see a clear majority. In that case, the president exercises discretion. The president exercises his or her discretion and calls and invites that leader to form a government or that party to form a government whom the president thinks is going to muster the support of the majority, who is likely to get the majority, muster the majority. And then the president gives a specified timeline, usually a few days or a few weeks, and asks this party or this leader, the so appointed prime minister, to prove their majority on the floor of the house, okay, on the floor of the Rajya Sabha. So you were not in majority, but I still appointed you because I think that you might be able to get a majority, get the support of the majority in the house, and I'll give you some time. That time is not specified in the constitution. I'll give you that time, usually ranging from a few days to a few weeks, to prove your majority. All right? And in case the leader is able to prove his or her majority, that leader remains the prime minister. Otherwise, they have to vacate the position. Like in the case of Mr. Vajpayee in 96, he was given 13 days to prove his majority and he lost by 1 vote. Okay. Now let's move on to the third option. The president may appoint any person as prime minister even if he or she is not a member of either house of the parliament. Now this is also very correct. So first of all, to be a prime minister, you do not necessarily need to belong to the Rajya Sabha. You can be a member of the Lok Sabha. You can be a member of the Rajya Sabha as well. So to be a prime minister, you can belong to either of the two houses. You can be a member of either of the two houses. Now, suppose you're not a member of the two houses, then also you can be nominated or appointed. Then also you can be appointed as the prime minister, provided you get yourself elected to either of the two houses within 6 months. Now, this is very crucial. You have to get yourself elected within 6 months. You have to get yourself elected to the parliament. Now, let's try. This is wrong. This is correct. Of course, you have to enjoy the confidence of the Lok Sabha, which means the majority of the Lok Sabha. So, let's see. We can eliminate option 1. Statement 1. So, your B and D options are eliminated. We are left with either 2 only or 2 and 3 only, and we are going with 2 and 3 only, which means option C over here is the correct answer. Now this video has become really heavy and very concept laden so far, and we'll carry on the remaining part of the video in the upcoming session. I hope you understood the concepts, you realized how institutions function, and we're barely even through the first one yet. We have to cover our executive and the judiciary as well. Okay, so we are barely covering the parliament and a bit of executive. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this video was useful to you. If you really liked it, kindly like, share and subscribe, and as well as please inform others about this initiative of Drishti IAS. I will come again with more questions on the same topic so that your concepts are clarified further and we are able to cover more ground. Thanks for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.